It took an emotional toll because I felt like I wasn't providing for him. It's very raw. It's very tough becoming a mom. For me, I was just not emotionally prepared. Thinking about the sadness and suicidal thoughts that just clicked for me that it was postpartum. Starting Wildflower Macarons pulled me out of that negative state. I was so busy trying to perfect these macaron shells and make these orders and put together these custom boxes that I started to forget the sadness, the negative thoughts.
Hi there. This is Her Intentional Reset, a podcast for women in midlife curious about whether the career they chose 20 years ago still fits. Hear from women who've made pivots big and small, discuss the practical realities, the trade-offs, and whether the change was worth it. I'm your host, Molly Whipperford, and I want to thank you for joining. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad you found us. And in between episodes, come join us on Instagram and Facebook at herintentionalreset.co, that's .co, for guests behind the scenes and what's coming next. Meet Jenny Huynh, baker behind Wildflower Macarons in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. For the past 5 years, Jenny has been making novelty macarons. She's especially inspired by Southeast Asian flavors like pandan and coconut, and she loves bringing these flavors into her macarons to create delicate handcrafted desserts. When she's not baking, which is rare, you'll usually find her watching a good sitcom, taking long walks with friends, or crafting with her son. I'm so excited for you to meet Jenny. This is Her Intentional Reset. Hi, Jenny. Thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited for you to be here. So, Jenny, before Wildflower Macarons existed, what were you doing previously? What did your work life look like?
I actually worked in retail, but after having my son, I decided that staying home, spending time with him and taking care of him was more important. So I was a full-time homemaker.
And how old is your son now?
He's 9 now.
You stepped away from your career to be at home, but then somewhere a macaron entered the picture. So how did this start?
So what originally started my experiment with macarons was when my niece was turning 1. And you know how at birthdays they have the cute little tables with the little desserts and things like that. And we wanted to have macarons there, but we're too cheap to buy macarons. So I'm like, let me just try making it. And so that was my first ever experiment with macarons. The first batch definitely did not work out. It was so bad, but I managed to make it look good enough after a couple of trials for her birthday. That was back in 2019. That was the first time I've ever baked a batch of macarons.
After that initial birthday party, what happened next?
I felt like it wasn't perfect enough and it wasn't the result I wanted. So I went back into the kitchen and I just kept trying it, experiment different recipes, learning along the way. New Year's was coming up, so I was just like, let me make some New Year macarons. And I shared that with my family and they loved it. I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere, but what else can I do, right? So I just kept pushing myself more and more. So that was a span of 18 months just to get to the point where I was satisfied enough with the look of the macarons, but I wasn't 100% satisfied. But my friends and family loved it.
So were you a baker prior to this?
I was not. Can't even bake a cake if my life depended on it. To be honest, I can't bake a cake now. I can only bake macarons. I don't know if I should even call myself a baker. The only thing I can bake is macarons.
Okay,
and occasional cookies, I guess.
So what is it about the macarons that compelled you to continue on with this?
I really love the challenge. It was like a moving goalpost. Once I got something right, I'm like, well, I can make it better. What can I tweak? What can I do to make this better? So for me, I love the challenge. And even when customers come with new ideas, new designs is always a different challenge for me. Not all macarons are baked the same. Different shapes, different colors, they all bake differently. So I honestly love the challenge of it.
How were you teaching yourself? And is that different from how you're teaching yourself now?
So I watched a lot of YouTube videos. That's how I initially started learning. And then I would look up and compare different recipes like bake time versus mixing time. And it was just a very long experiment. It took me 3 years where I was like, these are perfect. Up until then, I didn't think they were perfect. They were tasty. I had the flavor, all that down. However, for the shell, the consistency, yeah, it was 3 years where I was like, okay, this is good.
So, Jenny, what made you start Wildflower Macarons?
So at the time, after having my son Mason, I felt really lost. When you become a mom, you feel overwhelming load of happiness, of love. But at the same time, I felt that I had lost a part of myself because I spent all of my time taking care of Mason. That was just 24 hours. Felt like I was disappearing at one point. And at the time, I didn't actually know that I was dealing with postpartum. I felt a lot of sadness at times where I felt honestly guilty for being sad. I felt like I got the mom title, but then Jenny was lost. And I feel like when we're having these thoughts, we're just in these thoughts by ourselves. We're not outwardly saying, I'm really sad, or I feel like I've lost a part of my identity. There was times where I was just full on cry. And I felt so bad because little Mason would come up and he'll wipe my tears. And I felt like there was moments where I wanted to just drive off the bridge. It got to that point, but it would be so selfish of me if I abandoned Mason. So I think he saved me.
At the time, did you recognize that I was postpartum or only later?
It was later on. No one talks about the hormonal change or the mental stress or the afterbirth trauma that you experience. At the same time, I was actually struggling to produce milk. So Mason was constantly crying every single night. We didn't know that he was hungry.
Yeah.
And it took an emotional toll because I felt like I wasn't providing for him. It's very raw. It's very tough becoming a mom. For me, I was just not emotionally prepared. It was very difficult.
Thank you for sharing that, Jenny, and what your experience with postpartum was like, because while I was familiar with it and I felt like I was on the lookout for it,
Yeah.
but my postpartum showed up so different. It wasn't sadness. It was anger. I had raging anger, and I had it mainly on my poor spouse. At the checkups, they would ask like, well, are you feeling sad? And I'll be like, no, I'm just pissed off at my husband. That's where it's deceptive because it does show up so differently.
They don't tell you either.
Yeah.
I feel like as a mom going through such a life-changing event, but also having to make time to take care of yourself too, I think should be more standard and people should be more vocal about it.
How did you later recognize that it was postpartum that you were going through?
Looking back, thinking about the times and the struggle and the sadness and suicidal thoughts that just clicked for me that it was postpartum. And the fact that the nurse would check up and make sure that I was okay was when I realized that I had postpartum. And honestly, starting Wildflower Macarons pulled me out of that negative state. I was so busy trying to perfect these macaron shells and make these orders and put together these custom boxes that I started to forget the sadness, the negative thoughts and things like that.
Thank you for shedding a light on your journey and to shed that light for everyone else to help normalize these conversations. So you are obsessively baking in your kitchen, perfecting that recipe. At what point did you start selling these?
It was in August 2020 was when I started posting it on Instagram and sharing and selling. Before that, I would just post it just for fun. It was my personal Instagram, but I'm like, maybe I have something going on with Southeast Asian flavors where you can't just go to a normal patisserie here and buy.
So I want everyone to pause this and check out Jenny's work so you can understand what we're talking about. Jump on Wildflower Macarons on Instagram or Jenny's website, which is
wildflowermacarons.com.
But you don't make the typical macarons that we see at other bakeries where it's the perfect symmetrical, tiny, half-dollar shaped circle. I have never seen macarons in the shape of dogs, macarons in the shape of reindeer. It's lovely. So was that part of your process to sell right away, or did this evolve over time?
It definitely started right away. I wanted to curate each box with a theme, and people loved it. So at the time, my son would have been 2, 3, right? So he was obsessed with blind boxes, like opening a blind box and not knowing what mystery prize was inside. I'm like, what if I took that idea and put it in a macaron box? And so that was my concept. Like every box each month that they would open would be something new. And I loved it because I wasn't making the same thing over and over again. And it just created a nice surprise every time in these boxes.
What a great marketing creative strategy. How did you start getting that confidence so that you could start charging?
I think the first time where I officially sold a box, they posted it on Instagram. And within the Instagram community, it started traveling around like, oh, hey, I can get pandan macarons. I can't get pandan macarons just anywhere. So I think just seeing people's interest peaked, right? And they're asking around like, when is the next one coming? I'm like, okay, I think I can have something going on here. We can put something together. But honestly, just the posts on Instagram was what helped my business take off.
Yes, you found your niche with the Southeastern Asian flavors, with the surprise concept of these pop-up boxes. On Instagram, I'm looking at these adorable dog-shaped macarons. How long does it take for you to make each macaron?
I was actually timing myself this week just to see on average how long it takes. The initial just making the batter and piping it for the shaped ones takes about 5 hours on average. It makes about 36 total macarons. It's a lot, but I'm sitting there also for 5 hours piping out these details and things like that. But then after that, I have to paint the design on it.
Okay, but it's so much more intricate than the typical circular shape that we are used to anywhere else.
Yes.
You were telling me previously, is it safe to say about 20 minutes per cookie for the detail work?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So every time I try to calculate how much time it takes to put in a macaron, I'm like, no wonder no one makes macarons. It takes too much time. I do it because I love it. So it works for me.
At what point did you realize, oh, I should probably get my cottage food license?
It was when the pop-up orders started really rolling in, was when I was like, okay, let's make this official. I want to say 6 months after the initial pop-ups was when I got my cottage license, which was honestly really easy. It took a lot of Googling and Reddit pages, but it's not as bad as people think it is.
So then business started taking off. You're official with your license, but then your family decided to move. So what happened next for your business?
It took a long pause. It was an emotional toll for us moving to Eden Prairie. I wanted to just take a moment to settle in, take time to hang out with Mason, and I had to kind of start over from square one, and I had to restructure the business, right? Like from when I first started, I started off with the novelty pop-up boxes, which worked great. But because I've moved away from the Twin Cities, the customers that were buying the pop-up boxes were no longer buying it because we were just too far away. So I had to rethink and restructure everything that I did. And that's what moved me to more custom orders.
Yes. And then you had a really exciting opportunity with the Nordic market. How did that come about?
The curator, her name is Mick. She actually just followed me on Instagram. And then one day out of the blue, I got an email saying, hey, we're having this Nordic market at the Four Seasons. Would love for you to join. And at first, I honestly thought it was a scam. I wasn't sure if it was a legit email because I'm like, who would want me? And I'm like, okay, let's try it out. It was an amazing experience. It was very hard because I've never done markets before. However, it was just so fulfilling to be a part of it. It was awesome. Yeah.
Is that something that you want to continue then with your business?
Yes, actually. However, because it takes a lot of planning, prepping, and as a full-time homemaker / caretaker, it takes a lot. So for me, sometimes I don't want to be selfish and take all that time away from my family to do that. So it's something I want to continue, but at a limited level.
Yes, that's what's amazing about your story is how you've created this business, but you're also doing it on your terms, making it work for your family. And you also mentioned an important part of your story, also being a caretaker. Tell us about that.
So back in the end of 2023, my father-in-law was experiencing multiple strokes. He had about 5 strokes within 3 months. He was getting to the point where my mother-in-law couldn't take care of him anymore. His care coordinator was like, do you want to go live with your son or do you want to go into the nursing home? You know, you have 2 choices. At this point, your home life is not stable enough. What do you want to do? And I told David, I'm like, look, we live in a 2-bedroom apartment. We don't have a lot of space, but your dad's going to die if he stays there. I had to be real. I had to be honest. We were at the point where he didn't have a choice, honestly, because he was just going in and in the hospital so many times. David was constantly driving down there to stay with him in the hospital, and he would stay in the hospital for like over a week trying to recover from the stroke. And so that's when we decided we'll make the space. Thankfully, Mason has a bunk bed. So there's a spare bed that I can sleep in. And so we took him in February 2024, and he's been living with us since.
I'm sure that was a big adjustment for not only the family, but then also that did have an impact on your business.
Well, I had to go get certified and become a full-time PCA to take care of him. It wasn't just taking care of a parent. You know, he had more needs and things like that. So a lot of my time went to focusing on his health and taking care of him and helping him recover. And so it affected the business a lot. I didn't take a full pause, but I felt like because I kept taking these long pauses, I was losing a lot of customers. And then I felt that I had to make better looking macarons to try to get the customers back. So I was trying to balance too many things and I burnt myself out. I got to the point where I didn't want to bake anymore. It was too much. And I felt like our priorities had to shift. It was very difficult.
I can only imagine what a big family decision it was to take in your father, because a lot of that burden did fall on you and you are the primary caretaker. That's a huge choice. And I don't know if it's felt like a choice or forced.
It was definitely a choice. I know what you mean. For me, I think I didn't realize how difficult it would be. You know, the physical part is not hard. Either way, I'm cooking dinner, I'm doing laundry, things like that. I just wasn't expecting the mental toll it would take. When you're dealing with your parents, you grow up with your parents, you're used to their behaviors, things like that. Thankfully, I have a very understanding partner. So he always had my back and he would speak for me when I felt like I couldn't. So I'm always thankful for him that he understands and he sees.
I can only imagine on the emotional side, though. I mean, you know it's the right thing to do, and you said that it's a choice. But on the flip side, you were restarting your business. It was taking off. And then to your point, the thought of disappointing your new customers that you had just established, that's another emotional toll. How did you work through that, or are you still working through that?
Right now, I'm at a good spot. It took me a lot of growing up to accept the situation that I'm in and what I can do to make it better. And so just me slowly doing these custom orders have honestly kept my business alive, because every time I do a custom order and I post it, people see it. And with that new opportunity that I got last year doing the market, that has opened many doors for me along those lines.
At one point, you had said you had to close the custom orders with the transition with being the caretaker to your father-in-law. Are those custom orders still open now?
It's limited. On my Instagram, I have it closed just so that I can organize the custom orders that are coming through. Because if I have them open and orders are just coming in left and right, it's very hard to manage. Most of the time, customers will just reach out to me on Instagram and be like, hey, I have this birthday party in 2 weeks. Can I make an order? And I'm like, oh, let me check the calendar. Yes, I can. So it's been easier for me to manage that way.
Okay. I think everyone just cheered a little bit in the background. I also want to mention too, as busy as you are, I saw that you did something recently with Prop, which for those that aren't in our area, Prop is people reaching out to people. Tell me about the project that you did with Prop.
So as we're all feeling it right with ice going on, it's affected everyone. And I felt at one point very helpless. I was too scared to go out to protest. So for me, I was like, what can I do for our community and how can I contribute and help? My son and I, we were also making informational packets with whistles and putting in our lobby so that people can grab them for their friends and family. But I just wanted to do something. I wanted to raise awareness as well. People are still struggling. People, are still hiding at home. It's a big ongoing issue. And yeah, I am so glad that the community came out and, we were able to donate for helping people pay rent in our community.
I think it's easy for a lot of people to just sit back,
Yeah.
but I love how you stepped up and you're taking action. And I love that you used your talents as a way to shed light on everything that's going on.
Every role matters. Everyone can contribute to a greater cause. And even though I wasn't there to be present during the protest, I felt like I could help in a different way. And I think that's important for everyone to know that anything that you contribute matters, no matter how big or small, every role matters. I honestly feel like that's how I started, was just the bravery, because people are always like, oh, don't be political, the do's and don'ts of running a business, right? But at the end of the day, I think I would never forgive myself if I didn't speak up. And honestly, with what was going on in our community, our state, I felt like we were just pushed too far. And I was at my breaking point where I'm like, nothing matters. This business, like, I love my business, but if it fails because I'm speaking up for others who can't speak up for themselves, then so be it. Our community, humanity is far more important than anything else. Yeah.
Humanity and decency.
Yes.
This episode is brought to you by Her Intentional Resets Pay It Forward sponsorship, supporting independent women-owned businesses. One day I woke up and discovered my love of plants, and they've become a part of my love language. I was so excited to hear about Roots and Bloom, a mobile plant shop now available in the Twin Cities, founded by Sierra Curtis. Roots and Bloom turns plants into an entire self-care experience, from painting and planting to plant bingo and so much more. Follow Roots and Bloom Studio on Instagram. That's Roots and Bloom _studio on Instagram. It's also going to be linked in our show notes to see where the mobile plant shop is popping up near you. And mention Her Intentional Reset for 20% off any plant purchase, because taking care of yourself is always worth it. So Jenny, what do you love most about what you do, this business that you're creating?
For me, it's the community. I love the community that supports me. They're awesome. It's honestly what's kept me going, even though I have long nights and all-nighters. When I think about the appreciation that my customers show, it's all worth it.
Now we are going to take that hard right turn to some practical considerations. Let's talk about money to the level that you're comfortable. Let's start with how you price your work. How do you figure out how to price your macarons?
Yeah. Well, for me, what I initially started looking at was the competitors, right? What size is it compared to mine? What can my average be? So when I first started, my circle macarons were $250, and it wasn't until I started doing custom orders where I was charging $450 for a shaped macaron. And honestly, if you ask me how to calculate it, I obviously don't know because I'm putting 60 hours into this batch and I'm still charging $6 a macaron. There are very useful resources out there that will teach you how to calculate your ingredients, your supplies, your time. There's actually a video that I just found that has the perfect template for you to calculate how much your baked goods should be.
Interesting.
Yes.
For those that are interested in doing something similar with that cottage food license, any other practical considerations beyond pricing that you can provide? Any tips or things that you learned along the way that you would have liked to know?
So for me, Instagram was the greatest platform I could have used to promote my business that didn't cost any money. It's a free platform to get your name out there. So that would be my advice.
Okay, great. You're raising Mason. You're also a caretaker to your father-in-law. You're also running this business. What does your week look like? Where are you finding the time to spend 20 minutes per macaron after 5 hours of piping a batch of macarons? Help us visualize what this looks like.
So within an average baking week, usually I'll bake Tuesday, Wednesday, decorate Thursday, Friday fill, Saturday pickup. But with the more intricate designs, I'm technically decorating Wednesday, Thursday, fill Friday, pickup Saturday. And for me, freshness is key to my macaron. I don't like to freeze. I don't like to pre-fill. Everything is filled the day before. And so I try to get it to the customer as fresh as possible when they're receiving it.
Let's talk a little bit about the family impact that this has had, you starting this business. How has this all affected your family?
I think for better or worse, I think we're at the point now through all the struggle. I think we're in a really great place. Like for Mason, he's really proud of me because the teachers always go up to him. They're like, hey, can you please tell your mom we said thank you? So it makes him really happy and proud. And as for David, after spending time with me at the market, he saw all the compliments rolling in. After they tried the samples, he was like, okay, she's got something going on. We can build something from this. So it's been great, but I would say it was a long, hard 5 years to get where we were at. It took a lot of grueling hours and a lot of sacrifice.
Yes,
Yeah.
and curveballs thrown in that you had to figure out along the way.
A lot, yeah.
Yes. With all that being said, what do you think are some of the strengths that you brought to this table to overcome all of those obstacles to grow this beautiful business?
I think for me I'm quite stubborn. So for me, I don't like to give up without a fight. I think me taking on challenges have kept the business alive. And honestly, my love and passion for it has kept it alive. I think if I didn't love what I was doing, I don't think it would still be here. So honestly, just my passion for baking macarons, just macarons, just to clarify, just macarons have kept it going.
In addition, how we see ourselves is sometimes different from how others see us. And most of the time, we, especially women, undersell our strengths. So I want to share what your husband, David, had to say were your strengths, your superpower. Jenny's commitment to her quality and her cleanliness are her superpowers. This often translates into late nights and early mornings of baking. She is beyond meticulous with her cleanliness. She obsesses over her workspace and equipment. Jenny's drive for perfection, as cliche as it sounds, is what really sets her apart in her excellence. She's always looking to be better than her current self. And that way, there's never a lack of pursuit.
I'm crazy.
You're not crazy. When you hear that, what comes up for you?
It makes me happy to see the acknowledgement that I do try my best. And no one sees that. And let me tell you, during these pickups, I would look like rough. Like my hair was never brushed. I never had makeup on. I was probably wearing what I was baking that night. David sees like all the behind the scenes that no one sees.
He sees everything that you put into it and acknowledges it, and it's all in the pursuit of excellence. So yeah. I hope you're proud. I hope you're really proud. Let's lighten this up a little bit. Let's move on to some quick questions. Real life. You ready?
Yes.
Do you have a go-to family meal or recipe?
Yes. Mace's favorite is fried rice. It's easy to prep, easy to cook. That's kind of our go-to. And it's ingredients that you already have in your fridge. It's quick. It's easy. Mason loves it. 10 out of 10. Yeah.
I will have to get that recipe and I will have to try it with your son. Do you have any tech rules in your house?
We've recently become a little bit more strict where he has to read to actually earn tech hours. If he reads for 1 hour, he'll get to play for 1 hour. It's been encouraging him to read more.
A bit of career advice. Do you have one networking tip?
My best tip is to get to know your locals. I think personally, that is what made what Wildflower Macarons is today, is knowing your neighbors, your community. It is a tremendous boost to any business.
Last one. What would you tell your younger self?
I was actually thinking about this last night. I would tell my younger self that you are more than enough. I felt growing up, I took a lot of burden. I always tried to be the problem solver. Felt like I had to help others to feel seen. And I had to do all these extra things to feel appreciated. So I would tell my younger self that I'm more than enough. And it's okay to be yourself and not have to follow others. Yeah.
I think that's something that we all need to hear more often than not. Jenny, it has been such a pleasure to have you on this show. Thank you for your honesty, for being real and telling us what was hard, but also sharing your why with pushing forward and continuing to do something for yourself. What I love about your pivot and Wildflower Macarons, this business that you've built, you didn't have to do any of this, but you did it because you found something that you loved and you couldn't stop. What a beautiful story it is to listen to that voice and to find that thing that you love and see what can happen out of that. So thank you so much again for sharing your story. If listeners want to follow your work or see what you're creating or find out about ordering, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Wildflower Macarons. Otherwise, they can also go to wildflowermacarons.com and send me a quick email if they have any questions.
You were also mentioning a special offer that you wanted to give to our listeners. What is that?
Yes, so for first-time customers, I am offering 10% off your whole entire order, and we can also provide the code for that as well.
Okay, and then we'll also post it in the show notes for this episode, and we also will make it available in our socials as well. Thank you so much, Jenny. Again, so great to have you on. To our listeners, if this episode resonated with you, please subscribe on your preferred streaming platform so you never miss a conversation, and share this with one woman who needs to hear it. Every subscribe and every share helps the algorithm get the show in front of more women who are asking the same questions that we are. And that's how we grow this community together. And remember to explore on your own terms, because nothing changes if nothing changes. And to the loyal listeners, these are my after show reflections. Before we wrap up, there are two things that I can't stop thinking about since this conversation with Jenny. The first is how she found her way into Wildflower Macarons in the first place. Jenny wasn't chasing a business idea. She was a new mom struggling with postpartum, and what pulled her back wasn't a plan or a 5-year vision. It was her niece's birthday and an interest in perfecting a macaron. She kept going because the work gave her something to focus on that wasn't sadness. And sometimes the thing that helps you find yourself again can be small, can be ordinary, and looks nothing like a career move when it starts, but it's something that you can't stop doing. And I say that maybe for myself, it's like this podcast. And here's the part I want to name directly: postpartum depression. Most of us listening are probably past the new baby stage. We're not the ones who need this information for ourselves anymore, but we know women who do. I mentioned that I didn't realize that my postpartum showed up as anger. I had been on the lookout for the version that I'd heard about: depression, meaning in my mind, I associated that with crying or sadness. And I completely missed what was happening to me. It wasn't until my friend Janet, who was telling me about her postpartum showing up as anger, that the pieces finally clicked. Honestly, I still think without her saying that, I never would have connected the dots. I never would have proactively gotten on something after my daughter was born because of what I experienced the first time after my son was born. And who knows, my husband and I mean, we could have probably been divorced if I hadn't realized, maybe I don't actually hate him, and maybe I just need to ride this one out and get some support. And I say that in jest, but at the time, there was so much anger and frustration, all geared at my husband. That's why Jenny telling her story matters, and that's why I'm telling mine. Again, we may be done having kids, but we can make this less lonely and less invisible for the women coming behind us. Let's talk about it. Let's name what we went through. And the more of us who say it out loud and describe our experiences, the harder it gets for the next mom to miss what may be happening to her. So thank you, Jenny, for sharing your story with postpartum. The second thing that I keep thinking about is what Jenny did for prep. She told us she felt helpless. She was scared to go out and protest. But instead of letting that be the end of her story, she asked a different question. What can I do from here? And her answer was macarons and raising money for rent in her community. She used what she had, and she didn't wait until she felt brave enough or big enough or political enough. She just showed up and took action in the way that was available to her. That's the thread I keep seeing across all these conversations with the guests that we've had thus far on the show. Women who are unafraid to take action and who are unafraid to find their voice. These are the things that I am reminded of every single week. Finding my voice, that's been hard for me. I've always been a little afraid to speak up, to be controversial, especially on social media. And I've been in awe of women, or anyone rather, who can take a stand, say something, put it out there. And this podcast experience is literally forcing me to find and use my voice, to find it, to not be afraid to say something, or rather, I should say, to say something even when I am afraid to say something. So that's it for now. If today's episode got you thinking, I'd love to keep that conversation going with you. Sign up for my email list at herintentionalreset.com. You'll get the latest episodes as they drop, additional resources from our guests, and coming soon, access to our community forum where women are keeping this conversation going in between episodes. Sign up at herintentionalreset.com. I'll see you there, and I'll see you next episode. Bye, everyone.